welcome. Feels like we just were here and we're right back again. But I do want to welcome everyone here this morning, and for those that slept over, thank you for doing that. But thank you for being here this morning. We have, just a reminder to the board, we have about 2 hours allotted for this. We have two very important topics, one being town hall, the other being cell phone usage in schools. And just a quick reminder, and this is directed to myself as well as all the rest of the board. Please remember there are 7 board members, so if we spend a lot of time with one person speaking, then a lot of others may not have as much time to speak, and we only do have 2 hours. So a lot to talk about in 2 hours, and I won't talk anymore. Let's go ahead and ask Ms. Bowie to call the roll, please.
Good morning. Pete Wildeboer.
Present.
Melissa Mason.
Here.
Josie Barnhart.
Here.
Pat Bradford.
Here I am.
Stephanie Craybill.
Present.
Hugh McManus.
Yes, ma'am.
And Stephanie Walker.
Here.
Next order of business, again, welcome. Next order of business is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, like sign. That carries 7-0. Next order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance. We've asked Ms. Barnhart to lead that this morning. Ms. Barnhart? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Review of recent town hall. And this is a very, very important topic. I do thank Ms. Craybill for bringing this up. I think this is a very important thing. I do want to remind everybody that I think one of the highlights of our recent town halls is the fact that there is dialogue at the table. So it is an opportunity to dialogue directly with folks that are here. But again, I think reviewing what was said is great. I want to thank Mr. Cardella for doing
Lion share.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to come up with. Line share of this discussion and kind of bringing our discussion together with his team. So thank you, sir, for doing that. That's very, very important. My thought is that we could go ahead and start going down the topics. When someone comes across a topic that I know we've all looked this over already, but we can go ahead and start that, or we could use the other table or sheet that Mr. Cardella put together. Themes, I think that might be the better way to go, is the roundtable discussions and the themes related to our strategic goals. So what is the will of the board? Would you rather go from session 1 and then session 2, line by line, or is it better to go with the themes and messages? Any particular feeling? Yes, Bradford?
Because the comments in the 2 extra sheets, from the August 15th and the October 17th, were actually comments from the people, I'd rather deal with their comments.
You mean this one?
No, not the themes.
Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
roundtable.
Yeah, we have 2 of them, one from October 17th and one from August 15th. So maybe start with August 15th. But I'd rather talk about what the people said rather than lump it into a category.
Okay, that's fine. Dan?
Mr. Wilbur?
Yes, ma'am?
So I would like to offer up another approach to that. What Mr. Cardella had done for us, and I had done it at home anyway, looking at all of the things that people had said to us to come up with the themes. I don't think that we're going to be able to get down through, 18 pages of, comments line by line. I think we should look at the themes, and then if you have anything that supports what you want to say in the section of the down to the nitty-gritty, that might be a more expedient approach to doing that. And if I might add, I had asked for this to be done because the purpose of having town halls is for the public to reach out to us, talk about their concerns, their issues, and perhaps even hear some good things, that we're doing. But it's also our opportunity to toss out what our concerns and issues are and get feedback on those from the public. So this is almost kind of a little bit anticlimactic now because we're way past both of these dates. But if there's, and we've discussed a lot of these things as we're going through since August. So I would like to suggest that we look at the things that are going on in there and maybe even put it in from the budget perspective. What of any of these concerns or issues are things that we might need to ask Dr. Faust and his team to keep as part of our budget? Like when he had asked us, I want you to come prepared at some point to talk about the programs that, I want non-negotiable. You didn't say that. You said untouchable or whatever that is. So I think it might be a better use of our time if we look at it maybe from that perspective on how parents' concerns, community concerns fit in with what we're going to be trying to do over the next couple months.
Any other thoughts from the board? How you'd like to handle this?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
it seems more orderly to do it theme-based only because there are a lot of comments. And I think, we've kind of whittled them down to main topics. I just don't think in 2 hours we'll be able to get through all the comments. That's just my thoughts.
Well, and the thing is really, if we give due diligence to Mr. McManus's discussion, we wouldn't even have 2 hours, we have to wait 10 hours,
Yeah,
so.
That's right.
Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and start with that then? So we'll start, again, using the two sheets as support, and we'll start going down the themes. And I guess we'll start.
Because some of the themes might be the same for both town halls. That might be a really good place to start if we heard the same resounding message or theme in both town halls. That might be a good place to kick us off.
Okay. Well, does anybody have a topic that was used on both the October 17th and August 15th topic? The August 15th seems to have less major topics, but that's fine and dandy.
Well, I'd like to kick
Go ahead.
off. So
Kick it
I
off,
wanted to
Ms.
just pull us up to the family engagement. I know in both and community engagement and collaboration, I know both of that. I took away a lot of that from both meetings, that parents did not know how to, and community members did not feel comfortable knowing how they can get involved, how they can get more information. And I think that that we did a pretty good job, of talking to them about it. But one thing I wanted to just bring up when we were talking about strategies to increase parent involvement and engagement, well, our Student Support Services Department has, initiated the Parent Academy. And that, to me, I think, Lisa, has been very well received in the community. I don't know that we're getting that message out, but enough. But I know the communications department is working hard about trying to engage people, and that to me would be that doesn't cost any money, for us to do. But I think that is one of those areas that we should continue to work on, because that's what we think. Well, I shouldn't say not cost any money, because it's not a huge budgetary, outpouring. But that's one that recognizing the roles of families in student success, and so.
Wow.
I think that's a good one, that we're doing well, but we could do better.
Mr. McManus?
Why don't you let each board member at least start off with, they pick one that they'd like to,
Sure.
so that each individual gets picked.
So I started,
Okay.
passed.
Yeah. and you
Well,
start.
and you raise your hand next, so what would you like to discuss?
You're not on my cell phone now, right?
No, sir.
No.
That's hour two.
Town Hall Roundtable for 15. It's one about students not being able to read and to do basic math.
Michael, thank you for that. What is New Hanover County doing for students to read? And of course, we, particularly with ESSER money, but we've hired additional staff. Our central office staff's done a great job of bringing programs. But I still think that we need summer school. And I think it should be mandated for those students. I think somebody maybe can come back and tell me the data, but usually most people say the third grade is the turning point. If you don't have it by the third grade, it's very difficult to catch up. And so when this is brought up before, the answer has been that they won't come. And so my answer is, and I'm going, my favorite saying all my life was, no one rises to low expectations. So wherever you set the expectation, we've got to raise the bar. These students should be made to come to summer school. Whatever the transportation cost, it's for their benefit. We all acknowledge, we all know that we have kids in high school who can't read and write on grade level. We are passing students. What good does that do to send them? And I hate to be so repetitive, but then somebody says, but your test scores are horrible in the 4th grade or the 3rd. Why would they not be if they can't read and write? And so in summer school, I think if they don't, they need to repeat at least the literacy end. Maybe year round. We need to come up with a plan to attack the lack of literacy and math. But if you can't read, you can't do anything. And I would challenge to give the 8th grade exam, the reading, to high school seniors and see what the results would be. I think it would be frightening.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. And I'm going to let Dr. Faust speak to that just a little bit for a minute. I'm throwing you under the bus. But I remember back when in my principal days that we actually had a star that, a student might be moved on to the 4th grade, but they had a special code on their thing if they didn't, and they actually went back to 3rd grade reading. So it's exactly what you're talking about. So it's been done before. It's not something that can't be done for sure. It's kind of a mess in Power School a little bit, but I remember. Do you remember that, sir? No. Okay. Before your time.
What county was that?
One of the ones where I was working. Miss Barnhart, would you like to take a topic, please?
Well, and I was going to kind of piggyback after Mr. McManus. One of the things that we did at a few of our schools that we got funding for was targeted intervention tutoring. And so I'm curious to see that data, to see that growth, because if that's an effective model, that was relatively inexpensive as far as getting quality results. And so I would like to see and be able to present that. I think it was Ted Davis who wrote it into the budget for us to do that, present it to him to show the effectiveness of the program. The other thing I saw on here, Mr. Wildemore, is our EC supports. We all know that our children who have severe behavior issues is something that hinders the learning environment for a lot of individuals. We have a unique opportunity, specifically at New Hanover High School with the RISE program. They are doing targeted interventions, and they have seen dramatic results. And I would like to see if there's an opportunity for us to be able to expand that across the 4 traditional high schools, because that would help with dropout rates, that would help with extreme behavioral issues and things like that. So looking at this and seeing this, I wrote down, because I know there were some ECTAs and teachers on the ESSER funding chart. So my question, looking at the overarching thing, and I don't know if there's an answer today, but what is the total caseload that we see in New Hanover County as far as time and minutes we have to service? And comparing that to, I don't know if there's a difference between the caseload for teachers and TAs, the total time allotment that they're given, and then what is the expectation on our EC teachers and TAs? So for example, if the caseload is 50 hours, are we loading up our teachers right at 50 hours, or are we putting it at 40 hours that they have? Because we know throughout the year, as students are getting evaluated, that they have to be added to a caseload somewhere. And so I would kind of like to know that too, as we're looking further at a different time for operating budget, those kind of things. But in particular, I think it's a unique opportunity to target focus our EC students with our high behavioral issue students to see if there's a way that we can continuously intervene so that they can be effective as well.
And I would highly recommend that if anybody has not been to the RISE board members, I would highly recommend, because that's an outstanding, that's a win-win for us, and the people there are doing a great job. Ms. Grable, did you have a
I
follow-up?
just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit. I really think that we need to also, with the EC, we need to not always talk about discipline, because there's a huge difference. We have EC students that are not discipline issues, and they need to be educated. And so too often we get into talking about extreme behavioral EC students, when the EC program is so much more than that. So, yeah, and so the RISE program is very specific, and it wasn't developed for the extreme behavioral people. It was developed to help our EC student population move along together, like a rising tide raises all ships. So I just wanted to toss that out as we're talking about EC. It's not about discipline, you know. No, I hear you. I just wanted to differentiate the two.
And I will go with Ms. Walker.
Thank you. People piggyback. The discussion really, I think all these tutoring programs are great, and, you know, obviously the more resources, the better, but I really do believe that you have to start early. And I think that you'll find in our high priority schools, a lot of it is tied with levels of poverty, and I think all the resources really should start at the very beginning. That means, you know, adding, if we could, in a perfect world, if we had that magic wand, have more pre-K programs, have things that are very early, because once you get later on, it's a little bit more difficult, you know, to catch up. It can happen. I know it can happen. I never give up on kids because no one ever should. But if we're going to talk about reading levels and literacy, it has to start early, and that means a lot of resources need to go to our higher priority schools. It's pretty clear, like, we do have them. We have a grading system that is in place that is not the best. We should be able to, hopefully they're going to fix that, where we can look at growth, you know, as well as just test scores. But the fact is, we just did a budget discussion yesterday, and we can't do what we can't do. You know, so if we can take a look, I mean, I've been trying to, through the task force we're doing, you know, that touches a little bit on community partnerships as well. But I was trying to look at a way we could look at our schools as far as what the schools need, as opposed to just kind of like looking at a grade, because there's needs assessments. I mean, you can look at absentee rates, you can look at all kind of things, and intervention is very important in that regard. So are we allowed to talk about, because I really wanted to talk about teacher retention, but I really wanted to talk about what you said. Oh, okay.
Keep going.
So, I mean, the thing that themes that stuck out, not just at our town halls, but also in the task force meetings are, and I know all of you have been there, well, you still get to come next time, but in discussions with teachers and staff, resources are a big deal. You know, we have looked at teacher working conditions survey. We know our morale is an issue, and we need to work on that. But, you know, some of the comments in here, when we were looking at teacher support, we do surveys and things like that, but like here's concerns of high turnover rates among teachers, importance of addressing teacher needs and providing support, strategies to retain teachers. And I know since COVID, I mean, nursing and teaching has been a profession that has really been hit hard as far as morale. But we need to be creative about that. And in the task force, we do talk about ways that we can affect morale. And sometimes it's the little things. Obviously, pay is the most important, but supporting them, asking their opinion, and, you know, even just getting volunteers in there to help them in the classroom would be super important for teacher retention. So I don't know if anybody has anything to add about teacher retention or morale.
Mr. Wildeboard?
I'll let Ms. Mason speak, and then we'll go to you guys. Ms. Mason?
I'm writing down so that I remember everything. In looking through and talking about academic performance, I noticed in this one, and I know jumping ahead, wit and wisdom is talked about. And some of the feedback that I've gotten from teachers has been mixed, where some of them believe that it's too high. Academically, it's way too rigorous, and some believe it's right on point. I guess my question is, Dr. Faison, have you gotten any general feedback as far as the use of the materials? And then the second part of that is, will we have the data on the success of it later in the year, or do we already have some data on that?
Of course, like you said, we have different opinions from different teachers, but overall, we're finding that teachers are really enjoying the curriculum. The writing for the students has increased. If you go into a school, you're going to see writing like you've never seen writing before. We will not actually have data, of course, into the end of the year, but we do have to keep in mind that, you know, when you're implementing a new curriculum, it takes really 3 years to really see that, because it takes time for teachers to adjust. But I can tell you, and I encourage you guys to go and see it in action. The language, the vocabulary that the students and the teachers or the students are using is amazing, just at a school today. And what the first graders and the kindergartens were saying, and can really define for you. So you're going to walk in rooms and hear the illustrator, not who, and they know that's someone in kindergarten who drew the picture. So is it everyone loves it? No, I don't think you ever get everyone. But I can tell you, for the most part, it is extremely positive. And I really think that's because they chose it. Remember, our teachers selected this curriculum, and the writing is like the writing is extremely paying off.
Mr. McManus, did you have a follow-up?
Well, I'll make a couple of quick comments. One, talking about pay is so important. A lot of stuff that I have read in my life and still read, that the environment can trump pay. If there's a great working environment where you're safe, you're supported, you've got things in place, that really, I think, will take number one over a pay raise. Now, my comment was, we talk about programs, interventions, et cetera. Am I not correct that we at one time selected a select group of teachers or asked for volunteers to go to Freeman to teach as an intervention to help? And these were based upon, these teachers were considered to be top of the tier? Or am I incorrect? Did we do that to any school? And pay a supplement for them to go?
Talking about our CSI incentive dollars. Yes.
Oh, yes.
So,
And they had a
yes.
supplement with it?
Yes. Mhm.
And
Yes,
how many
we
of
had
those
that.
teachers are still there?
We just started that this year, sir.
And how's
Yes.
it going?
It seems to be going well. I mean, of
but
course,
we're
you know, I
paying
like
them
to go with data. I'm sorry.
But we're paying them a supplement to go.
Yes.
May I ask how much we're paying them to go to the school? This is not a negative. I'm just curious to see what we're doing.
I will have to look that up and get back with you. We
don't even know
presented it.
We don't know how much we're paying
Yes,
the
we
teachers.
presented that. I just don't want to quote and be,
I don't think that'd
I have
be
to make sure.
important.
I'm going to let Ms. Bradford speak and then go to Mr. Craig.
A number of the things that stick out, I mean, we're all on the same page in terms of our high interest here, but we've got to talk about discipline, and we've got to talk about the mental health needs of our students. I think we ignore that way too much. That'll take us back to the number one, strategic planning and teacher retention. It's hard to keep a teacher when they're getting hit by students in the classroom every day and there's no resolution. It's hard to keep a teacher when you have these discipline problems. And, we've just got to address discipline. We've got to address the mental health needs of our students. It's really at the crisis point. And I think it deserves attention. I mean, the cell phones may help there, but looking at the cell phone policy, there's a whole lot of schools that are doing something and doesn't seem to have helped yet. So, but we've got to address these issues.
Ms. Craig?
Yes, I wanted to come back to a couple things that my colleagues had brought forth, especially in the teacher retention category, is if we look right on the October 17th empowerment of staff. Staff members may feel micromanaged and lack of empowerment in decision-making. They face challenges such as high workloads, insufficient planning time, and the need of support. I think that our board is causing some of the teacher morale issues, is that we say that we want to support them, and yet we put in policies that micromanage them. And we put in policies that don't allow them to address intrinsically the equity issue of meeting students where they are and providing them with the resources that they need. Not every child needs the same thing in order to be successful. So I think some of that is on us, is that we have created some of that. I also wanted to throw out to Ms. Mason's point about the wit and wisdom. I have to jump in on Dr. Fason's bandwagon. Is every classroom that I have been in, they have talked about wit and wisdom is going well. And it is a struggle for some students, but I volunteer in 2 first grade classrooms, as a reading buddy. And I'm not just there reading a book to them. I am participating in their center time. And so when it was, one of the times I was there to read, we brought out a wit and wisdom book. And it was about storytelling and this ship that took, library books, on a cruise ship to the outer islands. And so they were reading the wit and wisdom pages, doing their finger taps, and, each one had 3 sentences to read. And then we got to the end. And at the end of the wit and wisdom book, there is more, I'm going to call it grown-up, text, where it describes more about the program. And so I'm like, okay, well, it looks like it's my turn to read. And they're like, oh, no, Anthony, can read that. And so I was like, okay, so that was me, stereotypical, thinking a first grader can't read that. I didn't know where they were. Anthony gets out there and just whips out this paragraph that I couldn't even believe, as if he had memorized it. And then they said, oh, well, and this, I shouldn't be saying names, but the other little kid, they pointed to him. He got out there, and then the little girl in the front goes, I can do it. And it was just mind-blowing and, goosebumping, because they really did understand. Now, are there some kids who still struggle back on the page, that they're still tapping out the letters and can't quite get it? Yeah, but they're all moving along. So, and the kids are very proud of themselves. They have their word walls. They like the stories. And I liked it because in one first grade class, when I went to the next first grade class at a whole different school, they were on the same book. And so I could, interact with them more about, oh, I just heard about this. And so I think that, it's with anything new, but the only negative I heard is it's a lot of work and it's hard to manage, but once you get in the groove, it's good. So I needed to have a plug for that, and I wanted the community to know that the teachers have really, at least the ones I've talked to, across the board, are into it.
Dr. Faison?
Excuse me, I wanted to answer your question, Mr. McManus, about the incentive pay. So our classroom teachers receive $5,000. Our certified non-classroom teachers, $2,000, and our classified, $1,000, instructional, and $1,000 for the operational, and $250 for our bus drivers. And of course, they also, this is to go, and they also receive stipends if they exceed growth.
And I just read an article too, Wake County is doing the same thing, paying incentive, and they're a much larger district, and they're giving incentive pay for their lower performing schools. I don't know how they're funding it, but they're doing that across the board.
And to go back to what Mr. Craybill said to begin with, is tying this into the budget. I'm the one that has spoken, so I'm going to speak at this point. Is one of the things that from October 17th, safety and infrastructure, concerns about safety in schools, which is our number one highest ranking from our strategic plan, including issues with facilities such as unlocked buildings, malfunctioning, PA systems, and overcrowding, highlighting the need for urgent attention to infrastructure and safety measures. And from the follow-up or the getting down into the thing, there are things the district doesn't want us to hear, or they go to great lengths to silence us. There's a major safety issue in our school. If you can't keep our kids safe, you can't teach them. Buildings are unlocked, PA systems don't work. And I want to thank Mr. Anderson. I actually asked him this specific question, or maybe Ms. Sutton yesterday, about why are PAs such an important thing. And we're hearing from parents, at least this group of parents or community members, that they do realize that PAs are a vital part of the safety. And I think that is important to highlight, that we do need to, as we're figuring out, check, we can fund this, we can't fund that, that PAs are very, very important to be able to do that. As well as, coming up, I think we also talked about new locking, a possibility of new locking structures and stuff to be able to keep, like you press a button, isn't that right, Mr. Anderson? You press a button and everything is locked throughout the school system, or the school buildings?
We're looking at systems that would provide that. Currently, all exterior doors are locked, and except for during arrival and then just the main entrance. But we are looking at systems that do that. But currently, we have electronic locks on all our exterior doors that staff can access only.
Okay, very good. So, I think that was important, especially with that being the top of our priorities as a strategic plan, being safety. We need to continue to keep our kids safe. And, and piggyback with what Ms. Bradford said.